Okay, fantastic. So this is the second one of our seminars, and this is all about packaging and waste. So turning negatives into positives, and I'm really delighted to be joined by two amazing co-hosts. So we have Dominic from rePurpose Global, and we have Beth from Plastic Freedom. And I'm going to let you introduce yourselves. Would you like to go first, Dominic?
Yeah, sure. Thanks so much, Laura. I'm Dominic, working with rePurpose Global as a partnership manager. And I'm happy to introduce you today to our partnership that we have with Evolve Beauty. It's really exciting that we can help them to become the first plastic negative UK-based beauty brand, which is exciting. And yeah, I'm happy to walk you through a little bit more information how we did that and how we're working with Evolve on the go.
Amazing. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us. And Beth, I'm really pleased to have you join us as well. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hey, everyone. I'm Beth. I run Plastic Freedom. And I guess this is going to be really interesting because I actually stock Evolve. So I'm excited to talk about changes people can make and then also running a business and kind of the things I look for and all of the positive things like Evolve have done who really set an example for everyone else. So yeah, I'm excited to see what's going to come out of this.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So I'm just going to start off with a little deep dive into what we've worked on so far. So we've got 5 different impact values, which we've written about in our sustainability report, which you can download from our website. And we've also been shouting loudly about that this month as well with a series of mailers. And this is all about zero waste, which is one of our 5 impact areas. So we've based our impact areas on the Sustainable Development Goals. So we've tried to kind of integrate them into what people are working on generally to make the world a better place. And then we've sort of grouped them into our main areas. So we know that our impacts stretch all the way from when we grow our ingredients and manufacture our packaging, and we purchase that from third parties, but we still have responsibility for some of that impact. And then all of that gets brought to our eco studio where we make that into products and they go out to customers, and we continue to have an impact all the way until that packaging is hopefully recycled at the end of its life. And part of that is waste, of course. And so what we're trying to do as a business is to reduce our waste as close to zero as possible and become as circular as we can. So this is what we've done so far in this area. So we are working on a number of initiatives, and so what we've done so far is we've created some zero plastic refills. You can see them on this page. So it means that when you buy an Evolve product, all of our bottles are recyclable, but actually the pumps are a problem and it's very difficult to find a solution for that. So what we've done in the short term is to offer a refill option, which is zero plastic. So you can take your existing wash and then you can reuse the pump and put it into a new bottle. So that's something we've been shouting about. We've got a Dump the Pump campaign to try and help people use that refill scheme that we've got. We've been working to try and make as much of our packaging made from recycled material and also recyclable. So as I was saying, all of our bottles, whether they're plastic or glass, can be recycled, and the lids can as well, and our cartons can as well. But the pumps are the issue. We've got to the point where 60% of all of our packaging has some recycled material. So we use recycled plastic, and then the glass is partly recycled as well, and the craft paper we use is recycled. Another completely separate aspect of waste is all about what happens to products at the end of their lives. And I didn't know this happened in beauty, but I was shocked to discover that some businesses create products for promotions or for a new launch or something, and then sometimes that doesn't even get to a customer. It can sometimes end up straight in landfill when things are overproduced, and we don't do that. We're still very small in comparison to some of these big businesses, but we make our products in small batches, which means we can be much more accurate about knowing about how much to make of everything. And then sometimes if we get returns from our customers for various reasons, or if we did make a few too many of something, we actually sell those in our outlet store. So that's on our website, and every so often we open that up and people can buy products that have a shorter life than we normally offer, but they're still in good condition and they can be used safely. So nothing is wasted, and also the customers really benefit then from getting the product. And then the really most exciting thing we've done so far in terms of our progress is to work with rePurpose Global to become certified plastic negative. And I've got a couple of slides on that, so we're going to deep dive into that. In terms of what we want to do next, our long range plan is to try and become as circular as possible, where everything is reused, recycled, and just sort of, minimizing waste as much as we can. Part of that is to just explain to everyone how to recycle the products. What we worked out is that people recycle more of their household waste than they do of their bathroom waste, and it's partly just because there isn't a recycling bin in their bathroom. So it's not always because they don't know how, it's just convenience. They're trying to help everybody, recycle more, switch some of our more of our packaging to recycled materials as soon as new ones become available, and working with our suppliers to find them. And then one of our other plans, once the pandemic has slightly disrupted this, but we can make bulk products because we make our products by ourselves. So, we can make a big bottle of it and send it to a shop. So we're trying to work with some of our shops to make that available to customers, some of our physical shops. So hopefully, once the pandemic is over and everyone is going back into shops, we'll be able to deliver that. So that's kind of what we're doing so far on waste. I'm just going to present a little bit more about the rePurpose Global Partnership, and then I'm going to pass over to Dominic to tell you more about that, and to Beth to talk about all of the amazing things that they're doing, and we can sort of open this up a little bit. And before I do that, has anyone put anything on the chat about any questions just about what I've said so far? No? Okay, I'll keep going, and then if you do, please shout. As Dominic mentioned, we're super excited that we've become the first plastic negative beauty company. So plastic negative, Dominic will explain in more detail, but basically what we've done is we've measured in detail how much plastic we consume every year, and we have partnered with rePurpose to invest in projects that remove twice as much plastic as we consume from the planet every year, and that's how we got this certification working with rePurpose. And the project that we're working on is really, really amazing. So I'm going to let Dominic explain all about it. We chose this project because we felt that single layered plastic, which is often really hard to recycle in beauty sachets, is a really big waste problem. And this project specifically works on that. So over to you, Dominic, to explain more about it.
Yeah, thanks so much, Laura, and thanks for explaining all the other actions that you're taking with Evolve Beauty. It's really good to see, that a brand is thinking about so many different things, including reuse models and including the sourcing of post-consumer recycled content, and then even goes beyond that and asks themselves what they can do to amplify all the good initiatives that they already have. And as rePurpose Global, we also started off by asking ourselves how we can take action against the plastic crisis. And we call it the plastic crisis because of two major things. One is that there is so much behavioral change needed in order to increase recycling rates and to avoid that plastic is leaking into the oceans or ends up in landfills. And the second bit is that there's just a lot of potential to streamline financing towards innovators on the ground who found solutions to collect materials and recycle them or dispose of them in the best possible way that don't have any existing market value. And thanks to the collaboration with Evolve, we can really ensure that we create this positive impact by partnering with one of our local partners in Aurangabad in India and streamline the financing that is contributed by Evolve towards the collection of these multi-layered plastic packaging pouches that are otherwise just destined for nature because they don't have any value to the informal waste workers that are making a living out of collecting these materials. So let me just take a step back and give you a quick introduction into rePurpose Global and explain why we're doing what we're doing and why it is such an important initiative that Evolve Beauty is taking today. And as Laura already mentioned, the first thing that we did with Evolve when we started talking is to try and identify how much plastic are we actually using on an annual basis, because for many brands, it is still very unknown how many kilograms or even tons of plastic waste that has to be disposed of or recycled at the end of life once consumers can no longer use these pumps or these bottles or these lids. And the first thing that we did there is that we work with Laura and her team on all the different items that she has in their portfolio and what the different uses of plastics are. So there we identified the different pumps, we identified the different bottles, we quantified their weight in order to identify how many grams of plastic come in each of these packaging items. And then we also forecasted and determined how many units we're going to sell of these products in order to understand what the full plastic footprint of Evolve Beauty will be. And this entire, the plastic footprint assessment gives us an idea how many kilograms or how many tons in case of Evolve, it's around 5,000 kilograms of plastics that are used on an annual basis. And we offered to Laura that we could offer the plastic neutral certification, which is our flagship product, as it helps brands to make a statement and a commitment that they finance the removal of an equivalent amount of plastic waste that would otherwise be destined for nature, and make sure that this is disposed of in the best possible way. But when I pitched that to Laura, she was instantly saying that she wants to go the extra mile and she doesn't want to keep the status quo by financing the removal of an equivalent amount, but she actually wants to go beyond that because she also wants to help us clean up the planet with all the plastics that are already out there and not addressed by other brands. And that's why she wanted to make the commitment to go plastic negative, which is to say that we are now removing more plastics from the environment that Evolve Beauty is eventually putting out there as part of their operations. And I'm just going to give you a little bit of context into how we're doing this and how exactly the intervention looks like. But then if you do have any other further questions, please feel free to write them in the chat or also raise your hand, and then I'm happy to explain that further. But as Laura mentioned, we always have a portfolio of different interventions that we propose to brands, and these interventions are mostly located in the global south. And the major reason for that is just because we've seen that with $1 spent on impact, we can create much more value to the local communities and also make sure that we can remove more materials than we could do so by investing this $1 or £1, let's say in the UK or in Switzerland, where I'm currently based. So how we did that is that before we started collaborating with our impact project, we did a baseline assessment, which is to say that we conducted primary and secondary research to really understand the situation in the local context of Aurangabad, which is a rural region in Maharashtra, which is one of the states in India. And what we concluded there is that for plastic bottles, for instance, that are usually using PET for the packaging, the collection rates and also the recycling rates are relatively high, because these materials, they can be recycled into other bottles, into other products. And that's also why the informal waste workers who are really collecting these materials, including plastics, including glass, including aluminium, are focusing on these. But on the other hand, the multi-layer plastic packaging, including the pouches that are also used in the beauty industry in many cases, they don't have any aftermarket value because they cannot be recycled in the local context in India. So what we do there is that we use the financing that Evolve Beauty is now contributing to our platform to incentivize the collection of these materials that can then be disposed of in the best possible way and don't leak to nature. And yeah, so we're really excited to have you on board. And yeah, I'm happy to give you more insights if you wish to have that. But for that, I think I just pass on to you again, Laura.
Thank you. The other thing I want to clarify is that we measured our total plastic consumption. So even though some of our plastic is made from recycled materials, we still included it when we looked at the consumption, even though it doesn't add more virgin plastic to the environment in all cases. We wanted to be sort of super conservative on that and to make sure that we were looking at the overall impact of what we consume. So does anybody have any questions for Dominic or me about this this part of what we've been doing? Feel free to come off mute if you'd like to chat, or pop something in the chat. And Dominic, I can't see it because I'm share screening, but maybe Dominic and Beth can see it.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the chat. I think for now there's no question, but please feel free to shout out and ask all your questions that are on your mind.
Yeah, could I just ask a question? I'm so pleased to be here, and it's really exciting to listen to what you're doing. Do I understand that all this plastic that ends up in India is being shipped by other companies, other countries to India, where they somehow find that it is valuable to them?
Well, it's a really good question. It's not all the plastics that is ending up in the local context that has been shipped previously. But in the UK, 2/3 of the recyclable plastic materials are still exported to countries like Vietnam, India, and Malaysia. So there's a huge part that is actually exported. But in the local context, part of the material are actually coming from other countries, but the rest is really a consequence of the local consumption. So the people that are purchasing their products in their local region, but then instead of actually having the opportunity to separate the different material types or to dispose of them and bringing them to a municipal waste collection service, there's just nowhere to go with these materials. So either they burn them or they just dump them somewhere, or in the best case, the materials end up in landfill. So there's no way that it gets collected and disposed of in a good way. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Harriet. Does anyone else have any other questions? Okay, so if you do, then definitely.
I think Laura, sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
I think there is a question in the chat now.
Lovely, Catherine.
Yeah. So Catherine asks, what are the challenges of cleaning bottles and using those as refills?
So this is a very good question. So not related specifically to rePurpose. So I'll open up to Beth as well to help answer this question. So we have looked into this, and lots of customers have asked us before, can we send our bottles back to you? Can you reuse them? And we do have an industrial dishwasher, and we have done trials trying to see, can we get the bottles clean enough to reuse them? Of course, it's better to reuse things than it is to recycle them, because not as much energy needs to be used. What's even better than that is if you can reuse things without having to transport them around. So moving them to us still creates carbon. So one of the things we're looking at for the future is whether we can work on solutions that we can send you. So for example, a tablet or a concentrate that we can send you that you can put back into your bottle and then add water. These things are not available yet. This is kind of for the future, but I think that that's even greener. The problem we've had so far when we've looked at cleaning the bottles is trying to find the right technology to make sure they're really clean, because it's one thing having a bottle that you've used and reusing it, but then particularly with the current pandemic going on, having a bottle that someone else has used, making sure it's clean enough and it doesn't have any water left in it, because that can affect the microbiological stability of the products. And some of our products are oil-based, and as soon as there's water in the packaging, they start emulsifying. So there are a number of sort of hygiene considerations that we've looked at, and we haven't currently come to a position of being able to do it, but we have tried to do it with our industrial dishwasher without masses of success so far. As a result, we're looking at some of the other options, the bulk refills, concentrates, and a few other things which we think might be greener in some ways and easier to implement as well. So that is my answer to that. Beth, do you have any thoughts on that? Because obviously other brands are doing this.
Yeah, so one thing that we found really, again, is that same issue. We work with a lot of smaller brands as well than you guys. So everyone's struggling to find something that will industrially clean the bottles and packaging to then reuse. Something that we are doing currently, which we set up last year as a complete, it's thrown me off. So it might have been a year or 2 years ago, I can't remember now. But the only way we can do refills currently is with cleaning products. And the way that we do it basically is if someone buys a bottle, we send it to them and they send it back to Plastic Freedom and basically say that this is my bottle, I'm responsible for it, and we refill that. But I know it's a completely different minefield when it comes to beauty products, because obviously you're using them on your skin. So I definitely think like the soluble packaging is like definitely the way to go. Like we've seen so many cleaning products now which were never even a thing, like plastic free. There's like iron and velvet ones that you literally pop in water and they dissolve. Like that sort of thing is gonna have a massive impact, because like you say again, if we're not shipping water around that's already in products, the weight that's saved and the carbon that's saved from all of those like miles on the road. The one thing that I kind of always say is like, because the world isn't perfect right now, I try and provide things that are kind of the best option right now. So with the refills of the cleaning products and stuff like that, yes, they're being shipped, but also not everyone in the UK, for example, has access to a zero waste store where they can go and refill it. So I definitely think more and more companies are going to be working on these like add water sort of thing to create the solution. And I actually saw it in, because I used to work in the cycling industry as well, in their cleaning products. It was actually crazy that people didn't understand that like you could get a 2-litre bottle of like a cleaning solution and you actually only need this much of the solution and the rest is water that creates it. So I think as more companies as well actually wake up to the fact that waste and shipping stuff, it helps them as well. If they're shipping smaller things to save money, then we should start to see a big shift.
I think that's really interesting. And I think one of the challenges we have is that we're determined to do everything organically. And when we look at some of the prototypes some of the ingredient manufacturers are making for some of these concentrated cleaning products, mostly they're made from synthetics at the moment. So we're sort of, it's not quite ready from our perspective to launch, something that would meet our ingredient standards. But I think it will happen in the future, because I think, everyone's looking at this, everyone's interested, and all of our suppliers are talking about this, which means that things will change. And some of these refill things will become a lot easier. There's been a couple of other questions in the chat. I've now managed to work out how to see it on my screen. One of them was directly to me privately from Jacqueline. I've heard that glass packaging might not be as eco-friendly as we first thought because transporting it is more difficult than plastic. Is this true? And what are your thoughts? You're right, Jacqueline, that it's heavier to use glass packaging, and it's very much a trade-off between different things, and you can't always work out which one's better because you're comparing apples and oranges because they're sort of different measures. So some people are concerned that with certain cosmetic products, there could be an interaction between the plastic and the products, particularly oil-based plastic cosmetics products. So a lot of people look for glass because it's a very inert material. It doesn't react with the cosmetic products. But of course, it's hard to use that in the shower because if you drop it, it will smash. So there is a sort of a trade-off just in terms of the suitability of different materials for different types of applications, and we use both. We use a lot of glass, but we also use plastic for all of our shampoos and that type of product which go near the sink or in the shower. In terms of the weight of them, yes, they are more heavy, and so the other option is aluminium, but aluminium dents really easily, and so you have a really high wastage rate, which also causes waste. So I think it's a trade-off, and there is no one perfect solution with any of these materials because glass can be infinitely recycled, but plastic, even if you do recycle it, it's quite hard. It gets downcycled each time. And so even if it is recyclable and recycled, it's still not a perfect material, even though it's light. So I don't know, what do you think, Beth, about the different options for different materials and what people should think about when they're choosing products?
See, my bathroom basically is just filled with glass jars, and I've never even thought twice about the fact that I could smash it, and I'm quite clumsy. But it's one of those, I really like the fact that Evolve use recycled plastic for products where you do need a lid, and you repurposing that waste, because I really think that as much as like a lot of people absolutely hate even recycled plastic, I really think we need to make a currency for turn the plastic that's already out there into a currency, because without it being valuable, it is just waste. So I think the more and more pressure that is on bigger companies, especially ones like Coca-Cola and stuff like that everything should be recycled, they're going to start buying into like recycled plastic and stuff like that, and then it starts to create an economy rather than it just being thrown away. But then I do think that as more and more solutions come up with like plastic packaging, recycled plastic, all that sort of stuff, we are going to see some new technology in plant-based plastic that is easily like compostable at home. I haven't seen it yet for like beauty products and stuff like that, but definitely for like food packaging and stuff. But the only problem with that is that it doesn't last for very long without it breaking down. So there's a lot of things going on, but I just think the more aware companies are, and the more changes and the more conversation, it's definitely going to go in the right direction.
We're looking at a sachet solution which uses a seaweed plastic. There's a very innovative company who are working on that. We can use it in beauty products, but it's really early stage because we have no idea how long it's going to last.
Yeah.
So, and normally when we're doing a beauty product stability test, we can put it in the oven for 3 months and that will give us an idea of its 3-year shelf life. But with the seaweed plastic, we've no idea if that rule of thumb will work. But just try with, it can't be used with water-based products yet because that dissolves the seaweed, but with oil-based products. So we're going to try with one of our masks and see if we can use the seaweed-based plastic, because of course single-use plastic, particularly sachets, is another really big problem, and beauty companies definitely a part of that problem.
Yeah.
We have another question. I'm just going to flip one more slide actually, because I think the next slide in this pack has, yes, it does. So it has just a little picture about sort of what you can do at the moment with our packaging. How do you dispose of, this is from Laura, how do you dispose of hard to recycle mixed materials in the correct way? What is the process, please? So there's a sort of a seminal book all about this, which calls mixed materials monstrous hybrids. So materials where you've got lots of different things and they need to be recycled in different ways, and how that's a really big problem. It is true that when there's a mixed material, like with our pump, it's much more difficult to know what to do with it, because you've got a metal spring inside a plastic product, and you want to do one thing with the plastic and something different with the metal. When it's a single material, it's much easier. And that's the other thing about the sachets. They're not normally, we've actually launched a range of single material sachets, which are the best things we can find until we can get the seaweed solution kind of at scale. But the multi-layer plastics, which is what Dominic's scheme is trying to take out of the environment, they're one of the hardest things to recycle, because there's lots of different layers all stuck together. So you're absolutely right that hard to recycle things like multi-layers and mixed things are the biggest sort of area of the biggest problem, because they're really, really hard to know what to do with. And pumps can be recycled via TerraCycle, so it is possible to do it. It's just that they don't get collected in household waste. And I think that must be because there isn't a good value chain. It's not worth doing, but I don't know really that much about it. I don't know whether Dominic or Beth have more information than me on why pumps don't get collected.
Yeah, maybe I can just add my first thoughts, and then Beth, if you want to please jump in. So yeah, I think in terms of the pump problem, it's just really that the materials might either be too small, or that the material, because sometimes it's still a blend of different types, is just not as economically feasible as, for instance, PET bottle to be recycled again. And as far as I'm aware of the TerraCycle program, I fully agree with Laura. I think they will definitely have these capacities. They also have the capacities to split the multi-layer packaging apart and have the aluminium layer being recycled in one way and then the plastic layer being reprocessed in another way. But I think the challenge starts there, that a lot of people are not necessarily willing to separate the pumps from the bottle. So you made this really good example, I think, in the beginning, Laura, where you said that people, they separate their household waste, but don't really separate their bathroom waste because they don't have a recycling bin in the bathroom. And I think that's already where it starts, right? That people are not necessarily willing to put their pumps only into a zero waste TerraCycle box. And then once they have 10 pumps together, they ship this box to TerraCycle so they can be recycled. So I think the solutions are about to get there and be out there in the market, but it's also that behavioral change that I think that still has to come from ourselves as individuals. So that's the bit on the pumps. And I just wanted to clarify on the discussion we had before with the incentivization of materials that are out there in the environment, and to make sure that we can make that financially attractive for people to actually collect them and actually do the best with them as they can. And in my opinion, it's all about to ask ourselves how we can extend the lifespan of every single item that we use in the packaging. So we're already having these great schemes with the dump to pump and the recycled material that is leading to a kind of, it's not fully circular yet, but at least we're extending the loop, as we can make sure that once the material it's no longer usable, we can still recycle that and then use it as post-consumer recycled content in the bottle. So I think that's one of the approaches. And then when we look at the mixed layer plastics, I think there the challenge is really how does the local environment in terms of waste management supply and also technology look like? Now in the UK and also in the US, TerraCycle is quite present, and there it is possible to send your multi-layers to them and they might recycle them. But in the global south, including countries like India, there is just no technology that allows you to mechanically recycle these individual multi-layer plastic packaging pouches into a new, like, novel, beautiful product. So there are mainly two different possible ways to dispose of them or to reuse them. So one way that we're increasingly working towards is to use them or to reprocess them into construction materials. So one thing you can do is, for instance, reprocess these multi-layer plastic packaging items into bricks that can then be used to build roads or to build houses. And if that's not possible because they are very contaminated and very heavily printed, which is often the case, and that's why they're not collected at all, we send them to co-processing, which is a technology that is used to recover the full energy and actually use the valuable part of the minerals as input material of clinker, which is a material that is used for cement production. So there you can make sure that the materials are actually removed from the environment and then used in the best possible way, which leads to the replacement of coal for energy generation and still gives you a material that will also replace the use of new minerals for the clinker production. So yeah, it's a slightly more difficult process, but I think that's why we're here now. We need to find like new ways and also rethink how we can extend the loop, but then also once the loop is over, kind of think about the best ways to dispose of these materials.
That's super interesting. Thank you, Dominic. Beth, do you have anything else to add about that?
Yeah, just as like, I'm not an expert in anything, by the way. The way I like to look at things is just like, for example, I've just moved to Cornwall and it's interesting seeing what different councils are doing. So moving here, I'm literally like, right, okay, if I've got any waste, where does it go? And I'm walking around like the town and just seeing that their recycling is horrendous in comparison to, like, I've lived in Lancashire and Merseyside. They all differ so much. And I really want to start to investigate, like, why is it different? And also why, for example, TerraCycle, looking at that from a business point of view, when we've looked at trying to get customers to send their packaging back to us, and we'll absorb the cost to get these to TerraCycle because it can cost quite a lot to send things. Like, how we do that and why is it so expensive, and why are councils and recycling centres not saying we'll take it all and have something set up with TerraCycle so that they can actually do that? Like, at the end of the day, it is a massive issue, and every single day that, like, all of these plastics are just going into the recycling and then shipped off to different countries to sort out, there's only going to be a certain amount of time that can continue to happen before we reach capacity. So these sorts of things, like, I really want to get conversations going, because I feel like a lot of people, when they put stuff in the recycling, have no idea where it goes, because I definitely don't. There's nothing from the council that's come through my door to say, here's what you can recycle here, here's what you can't. So I'm just basing it off like what I'm seeing other people doing. But I've actually been taking it myself to like recycling centres, like glass jars, cans, that sort of thing. Obviously they can be recycled, but like actually taking it there, because I don't trust it to just go in the correct like bags and stuff and not be blown around the streets here.
The other thing I've been trying to research is what to do with the lids, because I always had read and we were telling customers to separate the lids. And then we were doing research when we were moving from small little jars to our sachets. We worked out little things are not easily recyclable. They don't, even if you put them in the recycling waste, they can't separate them because they're too small. And I started thinking about lids. And then I had a look, and actually now Recycle Now is saying leave the lids on. They're saying leave the lids on of milk bottles. And I'm not sure if it's also true, leave the lids on plastic bottles like shampoo. And what do you do about glass bottles with lids? So I'm going to start a big research project trying to work with some of the recycling advisory people in the UK to try and figure out, well, what is this specific thing we should be doing specifically with our packaging? Because it's not enough to just say, oh, just pop it in the recycling bin, wash it out and separate it, because actually that might not be the right thing to do. And if it's something really tiny, they never tell you that, and you can never find that information unless you go looking for the fact that small things don't get recycled. I didn't know that till I started researching it.
I'd be so keen to team up with you on something like that as well, because I really think like from you looking at your particular products, like it's amazing, by the way, can I just say, for a company to be taking on such a responsibility for their own packaging, but as a whole as well. And just because I obviously see all of the products that we stock at Plastic Freedom, and all of those options that are still plastic and out there, and just really trying to inform people, because I don't know myself. And if I don't know, there's definitely other people that don't know.
Well, this is the thing. I think it's confusing. And if we're confused, then, we work in this area, then people who are just sort of picking up a product for the first time won't know. And that's what we need to give them the information. And then we also need to, help them just get over this hurdle of recycling the bathroom waste. So there's a lot of work to do to educate ourselves, as well as helping to spread the word about, how to recycle all these things. So yeah, that's does anyone else have any other questions about this area? It's been some really lovely questions today, by the way. Thank you everyone for engaging with all of this and just, participating in our discussion so far. So I'm just going to flip on. I've already talked about this. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't anything that we hadn't covered in the rest of this presentation before I stop screen sharing, and then see if anyone else wants to ask anything more general. So I've already talked about this campaign, this Dump the Pump campaign. We're going to be giving everyone an update as to how well we did this month. When we looked at it, it is a small fraction of the waste reduction that we can make, but it's still really important, trying to make sure that, if we can get a few % of people to change their behaviours, it will make a really big difference. This is just the last slide I'm going to show, but I'll come back to this because this is more about the other sessions later in the week. So we won't talk about that quite yet. I'm just going to stop sharing so everyone can see each other now, and just see if anyone else, I'm just going to open up to general questions about anything waste related, and see if anyone else has anything. We had a nice comment from Susan. So Susan, I'm not sure which brand you're from, but that's fantastic that you need to find that out as well, and you're interested in that. So thank you so much. You're from Curly Tsunami. Lovely. I'm so glad you joined us. That's fantastic. Well, I think, as we develop more information on this and research it and share it, it would be lovely to kind of share the best practices between different brands. And Beth works with so many brands that, that might be a really good thing to get you involved in as well, Beth.
Sorry, I missed that. I was just reading the comments. Did you ask me a question?
No, I just said Susan's from another brand, and she's saying she wants to find out the same information all about the recycling.
Oh, right.
So definitely share anything we learn with all of the brands you're working with as well. Catherine, your comment, do you think small businesses are setting the standard for larger businesses in terms of sustainability? Well, it's interesting. That's what I wanted to do all along with Evolve. So when I set Evolve up, 11 years ago, I was already using recycled milk bottles as our packaging materials. And I always wanted, at that time, no one was really interested in single-use plastic. And I felt like I was bananas and no one else cared. But I've always been really passionate about being eco-friendly. And I feel really encouraged that so many big businesses are getting on board now with this, because, you know, we can demand our suppliers to make changes. You know, we want recycled pumps, we want metal-free pumps that you can easily recycle. But then if a really big business gets on board with enormous purchasing power, then it will, you know, that will force the suppliers to really look at it commercially. So I think it's great that bigger businesses are doing it. I think, you know, we can be nimble. We can, because we do things in small batches, we can make a bulk refill much more easily than if we were a big business who have, you know, enormous factories and they don't make products the way we make them. And so I think we can have innovation happening at both sides. And, you know, my ambition was always to try and show what was possible with Evolve, both, you know, from an environmental perspective and also from a health perspective. And so, you know, if it does inspire anybody, then that's amazing. That's kind of what I was here to do. But at the same time, I'm really happy that it's become so widespread and so much, there's so much more awareness. I think that's fantastic. So
can I just say something on that as well? Just on the smaller businesses front, I really think that like there's a lot of pressure on obviously all companies to reduce their waste and change their packaging. But like something that I, obviously you will know this from Create and Evolve, I looked at creating my own products, and the amount of testing and everything that you have to go through the product. There might be a larger company that is wanting to go plastic free or change their packaging, and the process takes so long that I think that a lot of the time kind of like customers and that can be quite angry and negative towards a business. But I think the bigger a company is, the longer it's going to take, because they have so much production in place. So for like smaller businesses, yes, it's expensive to go through all that testing again and changing the packaging. But I really feel like because of the pressure of smaller companies, individuals and consumers changing their shopping habits, it's already going on in the background, and we're going to start to see like big changes when it comes in the next 12 months.
I think that's right. And I think that innovation is just going to bubble up. And I think the main place that it all stems from is from people asking questions and people changing their purchasing habits. So if you vote with your wallet and you choose cleaner solutions, then the big companies are going to notice that. They've already noticed that. They're already working on it. One problem that they do have is that they need so much of whatever it is they're trying to use as their materials. Sometimes there isn't enough supply of things. So sometimes that's the case with organic ingredients as well. And, you know, I think maybe that's also true with recycled materials, because there might not be enough plastic recyclate to fulfill all of their need for it. And particularly with the ocean plastic, I don't know if that's limited. That could be an issue for them in implementation, which we wouldn't face because we don't need as much of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you so much for your new comments. We've had lovely comments. We had a question about creating solid products. So yes, that's what I was saying before. The idea of making either concentrated or solid products can avoid waste completely. And that is something that we are looking at. So looking at making, you know, for example, a solid shampoo, which you would use as a solid, but also looking at the idea of making a tablet you could put into a bottle and then adding water to it to make your product, reconstitute your product at home. So it's all in the pipeline, and there are development timelines. So it's sort of 12 months plus away probably for us. But other brands, I think, are really expert at doing the solid products and have products out there. I've never found a solid shampoo that I liked as much as a liquid one. That's one of my problems with it. And I won't a product I don't believe in. So I don't know, Beth, whether you think that some of those solid products can match the performance of the liquid products.
I think honestly it all depends on personal hair type and stuff like that. I don't think if you go into like a beauty shop now or a supermarket, whatever, and you look at the expanse of bottled shampoos, you've got coloured hair, permed hair, like you know, all the different hair types. But then with solid shampoos, you've kind of got like dry hair, oily hair, and that's it so far. So I really struggled using shampoo bars, but there is a product that I think is really good if you are looking for something that's not liquid, and that's beauty cubes, because they're tiny, they don't have any water in them. So again, you can take them on airplanes and stuff like that. And that was something similar that I'd gone down the route of looking to make myself, but in like a powder form, so you can pick exactly how much you want to foam up and then use as a shampoo. But I realized that I have no forte in creating products at all. So I was like, I'm out. I'm going to leave it to the experts.
It's really hard because that type of product is really new. So you have to have a big research facility to be able to do it. And we're talking to our ingredient manufacturers about it, because actually they're doing a lot of research into it at the moment. So that's why I say it's all in the pipeline and it's sort of going to come on stream, but they're sort of looking at it. So for it to get to market is going to take a little bit longer, but powders are definitely another thing that I've seen development formulas of and things. We have a question from Evelyn. Is aluminium packaging better for the environment in terms of sustainability than recycled or recyclable plastic? And my understanding of that is it's more energy intensive to recycle it because you need to melt it at really hot temperatures, but it is infinitely recyclable, which means that you can just use it again and again and it doesn't downgrade each time. And we've just found it dents a lot. I don't know whether you've seen that, Beth, but that's one of the reasons we don't use it, because in transportation it dents a lot. We've used little tiny tins and that's as far as we've got with it so far.
Yeah, I mean, we do get the odd like denting, but I guess when it's got products in and then it's packaged properly, to me, we don't see that much. And then something that you talked about on the first slide of your presentation thing is something that we do at Plastic Freedom as well. So any products that are damaged or anything like that, we basically have like a damage sale. So we just get like a slight discount from the supplier and then give a discount to the consumer, because there'll be some people that don't mind if something's damaged, and it stops waste and it stops sending it back to the supplier. But I don't know if people, like some of my suppliers, are ordering a lot of aluminium that's getting damaged on the way because there's obviously no products in it. That's probably going to be an issue.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that the initial production is also very energy intensive when you compare it to plastics. And I think across the lifetime, it's really one of these questions that you have to answer with "it depends." But I think overall, like the easy thing, or the only thing that can be generalized, is probably the more that you can reuse the material, the better. And as Laura said, aluminium tends to be reusable much more often, or recyclable much more often. And that's why I think for some use cases, it might make sense, but it cannot be used for everything. For instance, for, the pouches or food packaging, for instance, there's no way that you can use an aluminium layer for that. So
the only other concern I have about it is whether there's any danger of the aluminium leaching into the products, because aluminium toxicity can be an issue. So I've been wondering about that, because I think they do coat it, don't they, to be able to stop that. I don't know if you guys have a view on that, but that's another thing I was looking at when I thought about whether we should use that material.
Yeah, I mean, well, you only have to look at cans, like cans of Coke and stuff. They actually do have a plastic lining inside the can, don't they, to stop it reacting with the aluminium. I don't know. I think that would come out in the product testing, wouldn't it?
I think it probably would, but yeah, it's I don't know what happens to that plastic then when the aluminium's reused. There's so many unknowns.
I know. That's the thing though, isn't it? Like, again, it goes back to that whole recycling thing, that like if we actually had more information, then we'd be able to create like solutions to stop that even going to waste as it is. But there's just not enough talk about it, because I guess it's not really been on like a lot of people's radar until the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's all quite new. So we had a comment or a question from Claudia. Any recommendations or top tips for starting a sustainable, organic, eco-friendly business or beauty brand? So there are lots of them, I think, Claudia. Maybe it's good follow up and talk about that separately. I think, you know, just really being passionate and having a purpose, I think, particularly now, I mean, it's what I've always done and I just love what I do. So it's sort of partly just that's sort of what I feel that I want to do with my life. But, you know, I think being a purpose-led business, being transparent, being really clear about your values and, you know, embedding those into your business, I think are really important concepts.
Yeah, one thing I'd just say on that as well is like I went to this talk from the Soil Association. I nearly forgot what I was talking about then. And they were saying basically it's obviously a different topic, but not creating a problem by creating a solution. So that's something with Plastic Freedom I was set on from the start. Like I'm going to be using a lot more paper and cardboard and stuff like that because I'm not using plastic. So that's why I started planting trees for every order that was placed. So just really setting out what values you want to uphold and keeping it kind of simple, and then moving on to that when you can. Like I couldn't afford with the business to plant trees straight away, but after about a year in, obviously not crippling your business to make a difference because your business is doing a good thing, if that makes sense.
Definitely. And we've definitely been on a journey to get where we've got to, and we still haven't finished what we're trying to do, but it is all, you know, what you can do as you go along, making sure your business is sustainable in both senses of the word, not just environmentally, but commercially. And, you know, we've taken the steps that we've taken with this report after being in business for 11 years. So, you know, we were always working on the recycled angle, but we didn't have the certifications and things that we've managed to get now. And so, you know, don't try and do all of it at once, just get started, I think. And, you know, if you've got a good idea and passion, then you'll get somewhere. So, what I might do now in the last minute or two is to just share the screen again to show you what's coming up for the rest of the week. So we still have 3 more seminars. We have a seminar tomorrow, which is all about sourcing organic ingredients. And I'm joined by my longtime colleague who's been working with me for 15 years, Violaine Barg, who's our head of products, who works with me to develop all of the Evolve products. And then we've also got Pauline from Cosmos joining us to talk through, in fact, she's from EcoCert, to talk through the Cosmos standard and explain what all of that is all about to do with our organic certification. Then on Thursday, we're going to be talking everything to do with carbon. So we're going to be joined by Charlotte and Lorenzo, who've been helping us with our footprinting and offsetting of carbon. And then on Friday, we're joined by my good friend and author, John Grant, who is going to have a chat with me all about ethical business, how you set one up, how you think about ethical business. And so actually that if you are thinking about setting up a beauty brand, that's another good session to join. And you can find the signups for all of these summits on the website address here. So it's our main address, then pages, then Sustainability Summit, and you can pre-register like you did for this one and join them. So I hope you can join us. We'll be hosting on that same page, once the recordings are edited, we'll be putting the recording of this session and all the other sessions there. So if you want to share them with anyone or go back to any of the sessions you haven't been able to make or can't make, then eventually you'll find them all there. So I'm going to wrap up now, unless anyone has any other questions at this point. And I just wanted to say thank you all for joining. It's been really fantastic. And it's just really lovely to share what we've done and to get our amazing experts as well to share all of their experiences. So thank you, everybody. Thank you to Beth and to Dominic as well.
Thanks so much, everyone.
And hopefully I'll see you, some of you, at the next seminar.